Hi, my name is Dora, and I've been attending Victory Outreach Oxnard since 1999. I was born and raised in Oxnard, grew up in Colonia. As a young girl, never really having or finding love and acceptance at home. And what I wound up doing was going to the streets to find it. I started sniffing pain in Colonia Park, running with the East Side Classics, finally running away when I was about 11, and went to my grandma's house. During that time, I did a lot of partying in my teen years, cruising Saviors Road, Beck Park, going to different cities, to Los Angeles. I was looking, I was searching, for that love and acceptance that I never found at home. By the time I was 17, I had my first child. By the time I was 18, I was already strung out on heroin. And by the time I was 19, I was married in a little chapel on the closed B yard of San Quentin State Prison. And from then on, my life just became a downward spiral. For the next 10, 15 years, my heroin addiction took me in and out of jail, in and out of prison, having kids and, losing them to the system. I didn't want to see my kids going through, the changes that they went through. My son, when, he was 5 years old and my daughter was 11, they had picked him up at school because I had my first child that was, born, addicted. And just hearing, his voice on the phone, calling, from the foster home, Mom, I want to go with my Nana. What did I do? What did I do? And I couldn't live anymore with the guilt, but I didn't know how to get rid of it. So the only thing that I knew how to do, and the only thing that would ease the pain, was to keep getting loaded. I had come to a point where I had accepted my life the way it was. I had accepted the fact that, this is what I was all about. I was looking at going to prison again for the third time, going to court in front of a judge, strung out, on 100 milligrams of methadone, and still on top of that, slamming heroin, slamming coke. And I thought, this is my life. I went in front of the judge, and they were looking at giving me 9 years. I had 2 prior prison terms. And so I went in front of this judge, and he kept saying, why isn't the defendant in custody? Why is she still out? I was trying to prolong it. I remember coming to court for my sentencing date, ready to go in. I had my stash. I had everything ready. Mentally, I was prepared. I'm going to go to prison, go back in the yard, kick it with the homegirls. And that's the way it was going to be for the rest of my life. When I went in front of the judge for sentencing, God met me there. Mercy and grace met me in that courtroom, because I stood in front of this same judge who had said, why isn't this defendant in custody? And this same judge looked at me and said, I don't know why, but I'm going to give the defendant an opportunity to go into a program. And with that, he sentenced me to the Victory Outreach Women's Home. When I went into the women's home, I was on about 100 milligrams of methadone. And for 3 weeks, I kicked cold turkey. After, the first 3 weeks, after the fog had cleared, I remember finding myself in the living room where we used to go for prayer in the morning. And I remember being on my knees and finally just saying to God, you know what, God, if you're for reals, if you're really who these people say that you are, then do something with my life. because I can't. I've tried, and I can't. After I graduated the following year, I graduated the women's home, and I started, living life, outside of the home. One by one, God brought my children back. I had never raised my kids. I had given birth, but I had never raised them. They had never really lived with me. And so one by one, God started bringing my children back. God was doing something in my life. God was doing something in my children's life. And God remained faithful through the whole time. The first year that I got out of the woman's home, my little brother was shot and killed. My grandchildren were put in foster care. I mean, it was like one trial after another, but God kept me. God kept me, and He continued to keep me, and He continued to keep me. And as the days went into weeks, and as the weeks went into months, God started restoring, and He started mending my relationship with my kids. Where one time, my kids didn't know when I was going to come home. Now they were, they knew that, where's mom? Mom's at church. Mom's at a prayer group. Mom's at Bible study. There wasn't any fear anymore of when is mom going to come back? Is she going to come, walking through the doors again? Are we going to get a call saying she's busted? No, it wasn't like that anymore. And God just continued to remain faithful, and He continued to mold me and to shape me, and I continue to go forward and trust in the process. Not only did He give me back my children, that I was never there for, but He's given me the opportunity to raise my grandchildren. He's given me, I never raised my children. People tell me, Dora, you're starting all over. And I say to them, starting over? I never started. I never raised my kids. I was always busted or in some rehab somewhere. So it's not starting over. It's God has given me favor, and He has allowed me to, not only with my children, but with my grandchildren, to raise them up in the things of God, to show them, to point them to the cross. I'm no different than anybody else, that's here, any other woman that's here this morning. I'm no different. I don't deserve nothing, nothing. I think at everything that I've done, and I sit here knowing that I'm only a sinner saved by grace. That's all I am. And apart from God, I'm nothing. And it's just the hope, and it's God's promises that He has given me for my life, that I can share my testimony today, and to say that God is able. God has blessed me abundantly, and it's only because God's grace that I'm able to say that. God bless you.